This meeting is being recorded.
Fancy. All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the second week of our quarantine chats. And so today is Work and Career Wednesday. And as usual, we have a special guest. And so today we have Mr. Hakeem Jones from the Montgomery County IU, who works with Montco Works, which he's going to go in detail with. And he's also going to announce some members of his team that he has with you guys here today. But just some housekeeping information. If you guys look at the bottom of your screen, there are some buttons at the bottom of your screen. And if you want to, I've muted everyone, but at any point, if you have any questions, you can unmute yourself, ask your questions. And also at the bottom, there's a chat button. And so you can push the chat button. If you don't want to speak out loud, but you do have a question, you can type that question in the chat. And I will either ask the questions, or Mr. Jones, if he has access at the time, he can look at those questions. And this meeting is being recorded, okay? So today, again, is Work and Career Wednesday. So every Wednesday, we talk about jobs and careers. And I'm glad that the IU is here today, because as we're going through this pandemic, everything has changed with how we look for jobs. So I know you guys are already trying to figure out how to do it, and now it's kind of changed around again. So I'm going to give it over to our guest, but just to give you guys some background, Mr. Jones, I've known him probably for about maybe 15 years now. He is a Norristown graduate. You played football, right?
Yes.
Football at the high school, does some coaching with the basketball team. He's also a councilman in Norristown, president of Norristown Men of Excellence, who I've worked with closely. And he also used to be an employee of the district. So he used to work in our attendance department, and used to do a lot of visits to houses to check on students and families to make sure that they're okay. So we're so glad and blessed to have him in his team. So now I'm going to turn it over to you, Mr. Jones, and you can tell anything else that I left out and introduce your team.
Okay, thank you for having me, Ms. Mitchell. It is great to be on a call with Norristown School District. I'll briefly introduce myself, say a few things about my background, and then I will introduce my colleagues and let them do the same. So I'm a Norristown graduate. I've been out of school, and we're coming up on our 20th year reunion, which is kind of crazy. Being in high school, I wasn't your straight A perfect student. I was a middle of the road, 2.9 GPA kid, but I also kept myself balanced with activity. So I was very involved in sports, football. I was involved with music and the orchestra, and I was pretty involved with the language programs, which really expanded, my horizons on where I wanted to go beyond Norristown, PA. I also tried to surround myself, with positive people who were going in the same direction here in the community. And even if they weren't, I still didn't have too much pride to look out for people and try to help folks. So I have a bachelor's degree in journalism from West Virginia University. Many schools I wanted to go to, but for some reason it took for me to visit and get out of Norristown to commit to West Virginia University, where I was a walk-on on the football team, and I was also involved with language, French out there. So currently I am a youth workforce career counselor, where I help young people navigate their careers. I've worked in the past in truancy services. I've helped folks in the public welfare system navigate some really tough times to find success. And I also enjoy helping nonprofits. With that said, I'm gonna hand this over to, I'll start with my first coworker and teammate, Sarah Resner.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. It's nice to see so many students on. Very excited to talk with you all today. So I grew up in the area. I went to Penn State for Human Development and Family Studies, and then went on to LaSalle University in Philadelphia to get my master's in counseling. Where I worked there for 7 years, actually, in their career services office. So have the career services background. I've also worked as a long-term volunteer coordinator for an organization that's similar to the Peace Corps. If anyone's ever heard of the Peace Corps, similar, not the same organization, but same concept. And then I started with Montco Works now 6 months ago yesterday, actually. Thinking that. So I'm excited to be part of the team, and excited to, talk with you all a little bit today. So.
And we'll move on to Sarah Goulet, who's also part of the Montco Works Now team.
So yeah, hi everyone. I'm happy to be here. I'm Sarah number 2, I guess, because there's 2 of us now. But little bit of background about me. I'm also from the area. I went to Penn State, studied psychology there, worked in human resources and recruiting for a few years before deciding to go back to school. So I've had my own, career journey there for school counseling. So I have my master's in school counseling. And I have interned at Hancock Elementary in Norristown with Miss Gibson. So if anyone had her, I worked with her. She's great. So yeah, I'm excited to be here, excited to help any way I can, and I think I'm probably going to learn a lot too. So happy to be here.
Nice to meet you all. So before you guys get started, if the students that are on here, if you can go in the chat and let them know what grade you're in, and also what type of careers or jobs or anything that you think is important related to what we're talking about today. So if you guys can go into the chat, put your grade and your career interest so far in there. We have an 11th grader. I know there's more than one student in there. It's at least 5 right now, maybe 6. Okay, so we have a 10th grader who's interested in education. And Mr. Jones just said that his journalism was in public relations. Okay, so Mr. Kobe is thinking about journalism. Kimberly, a plastic surgeon, grade 10. I think there's 1 or 2 more. Okay, 10th grade mechanical engineer, 10th grade science field, and one more. And they may have kind of stepped away for a minute. So we got a nice little variety here, but mostly 10th and 11th graders here today.
Awesome.
Okay, one more sophomore in politics and political science. I believe that is.
I couldn't figure out how to spell correspondence. That's why it took so long. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's all right, honey. We're not spell checking you on the communication.
I totally blanked for a second. So I was trying to Google it, and then I just typed it really fast because I felt bad. So I think I added the letter in there. But
Well, that's good that you're even trying to spell it correctly. So we thank you for that. Okay, so that's what we have here.
Okay, awesome. And they're all solid careers too. When you think about the future, anytime you're trying to decide a career, most importantly, you want to focus on something that you can see being around. Things are always evolving, they're always changing. Technology has really changed the workforce. So when you start thinking about your careers, you're not just thinking about, a year from now, you're thinking about, like I told you, I'm 20 years out of high school. So you're thinking about 5, 10, 15 years later. So these are all solid careers that will give you, the ability to make some good money, but also make an impact in the world. And Ms. Mitchell, just to touch on some of these careers that you mentioned, you guys are all at the high school stage where you have to start somewhere to get to those careers. And I'm going to share some of the jobs that I had when I was your age, and I'll let my colleagues also share. When I was in high school, I worked at Staples, which was the office store that everybody's familiar with. Learned to cashier, learned how to stock shelves, and ultimately I learned how to run the copy center. I've worked at it was Ray's Diner at the time, which was a diner on Germantown Pike, which also really taught me people skills and taught me patience. So a lot of those things that I did at a young age. Also, one other place was TJ Maxx. So I hated the fitting room, but I didn't mind being on the floor and helping people find items. So most of your early jobs while you're teenagers are really going to prepare you for that college experience and ultimately your professional experience.
Nice, Akeem. I don't think I knew you worked at TJ Maxx.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Yeah, when I was your age, when I was your age, I feel old even saying that. I'm coming up on my 20-year reunion too, Akeem.
Awesome.
So I worked in aquatics quite a bit at pools, so doing a few different roles, but mostly lifeguarding and teaching swim lessons and eventually supervising different shifts. So that was kind of a nice journey in that way, staying connected at a YMCA. I actually worked there and just until last September because it was just such like a family-oriented environment. I was really lucky in that way. But that was, kind of nice to gain that leadership piece in a supervisor role just from, staying on and, just putting in the time and effort in that way. So that was a good way to get that experience in my, I guess, probably late teens, early 20s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I worked good amount of odd jobs, and everything that you do, even if maybe it won't go directly to the career that you're looking to go into, things like, I've been a server in the past, and talk about prioritizing or working in a fast-paced environment, like that's number one, or customer service skills. You gain so much from that, just learning how to deal with the public, learning how to prioritize your tasks, what tables need to get served first, and who can maybe take a back seat for a little bit, things like that. I think when you're also in high school, or if you're in college and you're working, like I said, maybe not in your career yet, but jobs can help you figure out what you don't want to do too. So I one summer I was a dog walker, and I thought I loved dogs and I thought I loved animals, but I don't want to work with animals. I figured out I like them as pets, and that's about it for me. So things like that, you maybe it's not exactly what you want to do for your whole life, but you learn valuable lessons, and like Sarah and Hakeem were saying, you work, you figure out how to also, I don't want to say spin, but like you learn how to market those things that you've learned from those jobs on a resume or in an interview. There's always a way to, reframe what you did and make it, applicable to your new role. So just learning, keeping an eye out for what you are learning, what you're gaining, what you can contribute to the new role that you're looking for.
One of the questions that I wanted to ask you guys, and I kind of gave Mr. Hakeem a little heads up, Mr. Jones a little heads up earlier, is a lot of times students come down and they ask, like, how do they find a job? So especially now with COVID going on, what are some tea or some inside scoop that you guys have now to kind of help these guys out, because they are at the age that that they can start working? And before you answer that, if you guys can put in the chat if you have a job already, or if you were already looking for a job. Can you put that in the chat for us, please? So if you already have a job, or if we're planning on looking for a job. Okay, so I have a ninth grader that's looking. And Matthew, how old are you? Because that was the other question. Okay, so he's 15. So Layla's a server and a hostess at Shannondale. She has that big job at Shannondale.
Mm-hmm.
They used to call that, what did they used to call that job? Dietary.
Yes, and Shannondale has been they have been very good to Norristown over the years, and being in workforce and helping students throughout Norristown. Shannondale is one place that I know that gives our students opportunities, and sometimes they get not 1, 2, sometimes 3 chances. Whether they do well or mess up. So we appreciate partners and companies like Shannondale.
Yep. So Kobe's at Get Air. I heard that's a cool place to work. So is there anyone else that has a job or is looking for a job? Okay, so Miss Jewel is looking. Okay, so while we wait for the other students to, okay, Rachel was looking too. So just going back to the question that we had, how does a student look for a job just in general before COVID, and now that COVID is here, what are your suggestions of how they should go about looking for a job, or are there even any jobs now?
So I'll start and I'll let my colleagues chime in.
That Mrs. Hollis, oh, never mind. I wasn't supposed to say
All
that.
right, sure. So if you're a young person, you're actually in a really good advantage during this time. Many of you are technologically savvy. You're used to being online and you're very comfortable. So the fact that we're all on stay-at-home orders, you guys can really use that to your benefit. They have this term called essential employers. Those are folks who are open while many others aren't able to operate. So you want to focus on the companies who are considered essential. There is a list, and I'll send that link before we get off the call. But we all know these stores where you can go. They're the Targets, the Walmarts, the grocery stores. I'll let my colleagues chime in, but you definitely want to focus on the essential employers who are right now. They're looking for folks, but you also want to make sure you're going into a safe environment, that you feel comfortable, that your family feels comfortable, because you still have to come and go, each day.
Yeah, I would add, that's great, Hakeem. I'd say drugstores like your Rite Aids or CVS's, places like that. Home improvement stores like Lowe's and Home Depot. Some fast food chains are still open, and some restaurants are doing, very minimal in terms you can't go in and eat. So fortunately not server positions, but like cooks and things like that would be essential. And I think Hakeem made a good point. Typically, we could go into a store or a restaurant and maybe hand in an application or talk to the manager. And unfortunately, that's just not an option right now with the way the climate is. So applications are online. I don't know if, and again, you guys, Hakeem or Sarah, can jump in, but I know a lot of my clients use Indeed.com. You could type in things like Lowe's, Giant, ShopRite, places like that, or go directly to their websites to see who's hiring and fill out applications. But yeah, that's what Hakeem said. You're absolutely at an advantage because you're on the computer all day, right? And sometimes, older folks aren't as savvy with that, and applications can be tricky and a little lengthy. So just the fact that you have that computer knowledge puts you at an advantage.
Yeah, and just to add to what Sarah was saying, I personally love Indeed. I think Indeed is definitely the best resource to look for a job. And I don't know if you want to go into like tips and tricks for looking for jobs, but if you do have, former employers or addresses or phone numbers for supervisors and things like that, that a lot of applications will be asking for, something that I think is super helpful is compiling all that information in a Word document, so you can just copy and paste any information into the applications that you're filling out. Saves so much time. So you're not, going back and forth to different resources. You have it all in one place to just copy and paste into applications. And, sometimes looking for a job can be tough and daunting and can take a while. So sometimes it's multiple applications. So any way to streamline it, I think is super helpful. So that's just a tip that I found useful.
Yeah, and many of you are asking some good questions in the chat. Age is also important. I know, we're in high school, so sometimes, unfortunately, places like Home Depot and Lowe's, they do have an 18 or older hiring range. But when you look at some of the restaurants, the fast food, the grocery, you do have some who are willing to hire younger. So sometimes you're limited, unfortunately. But something else I was thinking about, many of you guys can touch on some entrepreneurial activities where a few businesses may have reached out to me and said, hey, we're only doing takeout, but how can I get the message out to people? You guys can really jump on this social media thing and really help, whether it's a friend, a family member, a mom and pop store. They might be willing to send you a couple dollars through Cash App or Venmo, for helping them during this time. So try to use your advantages. Use your skill to your advantage, because there's folks who really can benefit.
I mean, that's a great tip because a lot of you guys, I mean, most of you are on here because of social media, and that's actually a real job that people have that didn't exist, 10 years ago. And people who, do social media promotions, they make really good money. And that's also something, if you're good at it, the word will get out. And, when you graduate from high school, whatever it is that you choose to do, that may be something that you might want to look into, as a full-time job as well. And then we see there were a couple other questions in here too. Somebody asked and answered, how old do you have to be to either get a job or maybe work at like a grocery store like Giant?
So the state law, I believe federal law, it requires you to be 14 or older to work in the United States. So chances are, the younger you are, the more you're going to have to work because you are competing with a lot of older folks. Some are high school graduates, some are college students, some are folks that are retired who had to go back to work. But don't let that discourage you. You have grocery chains, you have fast food, you have places like Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A is a really good employer that gives young people a chance. And like I said, we all have to start somewhere. And for me, it was a TJ Maxx. It was a Staples. It was one of those retailers that gave me my start. So yeah, I would say 14 is the working age. You can get your working papers or permit from the actual high school, and your counselors can help you with that.
So can you guys tell us about the Montco Works program? First, if you can kind of explain what the IU is, because most adults don't know what that is. I even know what it is, but I don't know what it is. So if you can explain that, and then also talk about Montco Works and just the opportunities that they have through your office.
Okay, so I'll touch on what an IU is, and I'll let my colleagues talk a little bit about our program. So an intermediate unit, I consider it like a large, it's a school entity. So when you think about it, there's 22 public schools in Montgomery County, and there's a lot of other private and Catholic schools. So the IU helps all the different schools in a variety of ways. The IU provides early childhood education, so they do Head Start and pre-kindergarten. They work with students who need special testing, whether it's hearing or speech. And then you have our department that focuses strictly on careers and jobs and for kids who are moving on to the real world. So that's 16 and up, we're really focused on preparing those young people for the next steps after high school. Sarah Resner can touch on some of the benefits of being in a program like ours.
Yeah, so Montco Works now operates out of the IU, but it's part of this large national program called WIOA, the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act. So kind of what our program does in a nutshell, we have youth and young adults in our program between 14 and 24 years old. So about a quarter of our clients are in school youth like yourself, and then 75% are out of school youth, whether they, just graduated from high school or didn't finish high school, that's, out of school youth as well. So essentially our clients have different educational and career goals. So one of my in-school youth, he is graduating and he is looking to go to Montco. So I'm working with him a lot on career exploration and that community college application. I have some folks that are, getting their GED because they didn't finish school, so we're helping them with that. Some clients are really interested strictly, in employment. So we have paid work experiences with partners throughout Montgomery County where we help those clients get a job and get some experience in a field they might be interested in. Some of our clients want training, to be a truck driver, so that requires a CDL license, or to be a nursing assistant, which requires a specific certification. So it's really, I think the thing I really like about the program is it's everyone's different, in their needs or their what they're looking for, whether it's education, training, or employment. So we definitely tailor our services to those needs, but just wanted to give you, I guess, some examples of what some of our clients in our program are doing. with our help as career counselors. We have a partnership facilitator who goes and makes those connections throughout the county. So we have quite a bit of, folks from your area all the way up 45 minutes away to Pottstown. So that's and then, east, west, all over. So we're trying to give folks lots of opportunities in that way, throughout the county to get different employment and education experiences.
Yeah, so to touch on that real quick, Ms. Mitchell. So the state really provides us with a decent amount of funding to help young people. And it's all geared towards jobs, careers, and then there's supportive services also that we put in place. So we may help with transportation, we may help with getting your photo ID, we may help with internships, as somebody just mentioned in the bottom. We have a summer internship program that's coming up. I'm going to let Sarah Goulet share information on the SLIP program, which is for high schools, and it's for high school students and college students. So of wide variety. Sarah, if you want to touch on the SLIP program, that'd be great.
Sure. So yes, so it's called the SLIP program, our SLIP internships. And so because of COVID and because things are so different right now, we are still working out all of the details. Normally, interns would be placed into their positions where they would work the majority of the summer, getting experience, getting paid experience, working with bosses, working in a team, coming to the intermediate unit for different events or introductions or, different seminars and things like that. So due to COVID, we're kind of going to make it a hybrid model. So what we're thinking is in the beginning of the summer, we're going to do online virtual kind of like a career preparation type activities where we'll do different workshops, different seminars, how to create a resume, where to look for jobs, having our interns learn more information about different career fields, maybe doing different type of like personality assessments, that type of thing, some type of prep academy. So that will be for the beginning of the summer. And then depending on how things turn out, because as we all know, everything is so unknown right now, but potentially then placing our interns into their placements for the last 3 to 4 weeks of the summer. So basically like the month of August, hopefully having our interns actually working in their places. So that's what we're thinking right now. And it's, like I said, we're still figuring out all the details, but it will probably be a hybrid model. So we just wanted to make sure we get that out there. So, students aren't thinking it's going to be a summer-long internship. But it seems like it's going to be a fantastic resource and, something you can put on a resume. You're going to build employable skills, get you experience networking, building connections, working with the career counselors like we are, and, having those connections for, what you want to do next. So look out for that, and maybe once I get like the links together, I can send them to everyone who's on this call and see if you want to apply. And it is an application process, but yeah.
Okay, and I hope you can hear me. Of course, my yard guy decided he wanted to come and cut my grass right now. The big machine. So the question is, would the SLIP program also include upcoming juniors and or just current juniors?
So
As well, I think, right? Or
yeah, so from what I remember last year, it was students who were going into their junior year. So if you were going into your junior year come the fall, and if you were, I think, no more than a sophomore in college. So we'll have to get you those updated guidelines just to be sure. But it is a good opportunity. Someone asked, where are we located? So if we're all in Norristown, so if you know where the transportation center is on Lafayette Street, there's a really, there's a large building right next to a really nice large building with a huge parking lot. It's right on the bike trail. That's the Montgomery County IU. So if a family member wanted to come by there and just pop in to get some information, you could do that also.
Yeah, I just saw that come through as that too. So we're not currently there, unfortunately. We're all at home until things are lifted, which again is unknown, unfortunately. But I know how can I get in touch with the program? I would say right now, like emailing is the best. We're trying to start enrolling new clients online, whereas we used to have official intakes or come to schools and do some paperwork with y'all. Again, things just being so different, we're moving some things online. So that'll be, hopefully sounded like coming very soon. We're trying to pilot it with a few people. Hakeem's been working on that, and Sarah. So, but I'd say, yeah, I guess email, right? Hakeem would probably be the best for now if you do have an interest.
Yeah, so we'll share our information with Miss Mitchell, and she'll make sure that you guys get it. We have a flyer that outlines our services and it outlines what we do.
Yeah.
We'll get it to Miss Mitchell.
There's a question here that says, if you are about to be a senior, can you still do the program?
Yes, you are eligible. So, like I said, on a case by case, we ask that you reach out to us, and not to mention there is eligibility requirement for our program, and we'll be glad to share that. So we are state funded, and everything that's state funded has different eligibility requirements.
Now, is the SLIP program similar to, you guys had a flyer that we were passing out to the students about make up to $4,000 this summer. Is that the same program, or is it a totally different program? And is that other program where you can make up to $4,000, is that now kind of gone or on hold because of COVID?
So, Sarah, did you want to go on this?
No, I wasn't sure.
Okay, so the SLIP program, it was a 2-month internship, 40 hours a week, and I believe we paid our students I think $12.50 an hour. So I do think that was the summer program that allowed our students to make up to $4,000 working a full-time job. Students were placed in different places. So we had some in schools, we had some in hospitality and tourism, we had some students in manufacturing. Just a wide variety of different jobs. We had some students at the courthouse, some at the social service buildings. So yeah, that was the program, and that information will go out soon. And it is a first come, first serve, and we serve all of Montgomery County. So it is one of those things where not everybody necessarily gets in because there's an interview process.
So they can still do that one?
Yeah, the SLIP will go out when all this stuff boils over. That information will get sent to Montgomery County counselors. We spoke on a program that was in the past that was for high school students. That I don't know the status on, but we can update you on that program.
Okay, so guys, whenever they send me the information, of course, you'll get it first. I'll put it on Schoology. I'll put it here. And on the link that Mr. Roth sent you guys for the College and Career Center, any updates will go in there as well. And worst case scenario, if for some reason you don't see it, just shoot me an email in about a week or two, and I'll get back to you and let you know if we have it or not. You guys are asking some great questions as usual.
Somebody mentioned what the interview process is like. I would say just in general, we talked about how to get a job. And right now, it is a competitive time. So we want you guys to be the best person that you can be. You're competing with the next person. You're competing with the next student, the next school. So you got to be on your best. Your applications have to be completed thoroughly. They got to have correct spelling. The punctuation's got to be good. And you got to share some of the great things that you possess, whether you volunteered for family members at home or whether you work somewhere. So the interview process for the SLIP is we do Zoom meetings and we ask, typical interview questions. And we also ask for an application to be sent to us that kind of outlines some of the things that you've been able to accomplish over the years.
I think we're moving our application to like a Google form right now. So it should be pretty simple to fill out. Could be doing on your phone or on a computer. Someone asked if we can send the application, and when it is finalized, we will definitely send it to you. It's just not completely finalized yet.
If you guys could give some suggestions, because obviously now most of the interviews, if it's not at a local store, is going to be online. So do you guys have any suggestions or recommendations that will help a student stand out with a virtual, interview? Like, what are some do's and don'ts?
Sarah, I saw you on mute too. Do you want to go first and then I'll piggyback?
Nope, go ahead.
Okay. I was just gonna say, just a few thoughts come to mind. I know, virtual is definitely different for us. So I'd say if you can take, the call in a quiet place, I know that can be challenging. A space where, you have a nice background, whether it can just be a wall, but where it's not chaotic or distracting, really would be helpful. I think the online interviews are really helpful in the sense versus phone, because you still have that face-to-face video interaction, even though it's not the same. So you still want to remember all the same, types of, nonverbal. So looking interested, smiling, maintaining eye contact, not like looking at your phone, because I know that can be tempting. So, still trying to maintain those positive nonverbals, and, trying to answer to the best of your ability, making a list of your own questions. It always is good to have questions for an employer, even if they did a great job and answered every one of yours. It shows interest to ask questions back to the employer. And just being timely too, right? Like maybe testing out technology. I know one day I couldn't get into our Zoom call, and still don't know why, but it was like I was freaking out. So, you want to still try to be timely and get in the Zoom room early, or whatever platform they may use.
Yeah, I would say this is the world that we're living in now, and unfortunately, there's nothing we can do about it. Some people they love it, they're extreme about it, they can't wait to get on Zoom calls, and other people just can't stand it. So one thing that we will have to do is get out of our comfort zone. People want to see who you are, they want to see what you look like, they want to see how you articulate yourself, how you speak. We live in a really judgmental society, but also when you work for these companies, you're representing much more than yourself. So trust me, people want to see the best of you. So I would just say when you're out there interviewing, or when you have an opportunity, put it all out there and shine through. And you also have to come to people like Miss Mitchell, come to your counselors like Miss Hall, and even us. She has our information. You want to be prepared for these interviews, and nothing better than to ask someone who's been there.
I guess when we go back to physical, did all three of you go already, or did everybody go that wanted to say anything?
I'm good. I think we covered it.
Okay. When we go back to physical interviews, what are your suggestions? Because the things that people wear now and is appropriate back when I was in high school was absolutely not appropriate, even though we did wear pantyhose back then, and kids are like, wear pantyhose, wear stockings. So of course you don't have to wear that. But what is like acceptable and unacceptable attire to wear for an interview for a high school student?
So I can start for young men, if that's okay. So we are a much looser society than we used to, but I think it's all about being clean cut and presentable. Remember, you're going to work somewhere where you're most likely going to be public. So a nice polo shirt, if it's the spring or summer, a nice polo shirt, a pair of khakis if you can get a pair. Worst comes to worst, if you don't have a pair of khakis, something dark, maybe black jeans or something that's not as standoutish. You don't want to be wearing clothes that got rips in them. You don't want to be, not that fashion is not good. You don't want to walk into a store as if you're going out to the mall with your homies or with your friends. You want to be pretty conservative. Khakis, a nice polo shirt, Make sure it's ironed, it's pressed. If it's something much more severe, like a college entrance interview or a different type of job, then you might want to wear a shirt and tie, and you might want to ask some folks, to help you in those areas.
Yeah. So yeah, similarly for ladies, I guess maybe more conservative if you wanted to err on the side of conservative in terms of, I know sometimes it's hard in the summer if you're interviewing for jobs in the summer and it's like 95 degrees out, but maybe for just, for that interview, just put like a sweater over a dress, or, if you have dress pants, wear them just for that hour, and then, you can change when you get home. But yeah, I would say err on the side of maybe more conservative. And I once had a professor say, I think Hakeem said, like, be the best version of yourself. So don't dress like someone you're not for the interview. Like, just be the best version, be the most, professional version of yourself. And you don't want to present yourself as a completely different person. You want your personality to come through.
Yeah, you definitely want to, young ladies, I hear that open-toe shoes aren't always recommended either when you go to specific interviews. So if you wear a nice pair of shoes or flats, make sure they're not open-toed. Young men, we don't encourage sneakers. So if you can find a nice pair of, casual shoes, dress shoes, or I think that works as well. But think of it as you're going to a pretty laid back. I see some of you get dressed for graduation, or some of you get dressed for church. Think of it that way, because you're only going to be in it for about an hour. And I think that will show the employer that you're willing to go the extra mile and step outside of your comfort zone. Some folks will just go out the house how they feel like it, and it shows to some employers. It just shows a sign of either carelessness or laziness sometimes, when they see you're not willing to maybe inconvenience yourself for a little bit.
And ladies, what about leggings? I know that sometimes people can wear leggings with like a long shirt, but sometimes people wear leggings as pants and a regular shirt. So what are your thoughts on leggings that's not part of a long shirt? And also, as far as skirts, how short is too short?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'm wearing yoga pants right now. I will completely self-disclose. So but that's way different than, being out. I would not wear that to work. I would not wear that to an interview. It's so different when you're at home or running a quick errand, right? So I don't recommend leggings or anything really like form-fitting that can make someone uncomfortable. Even though leggings are, comfy and cozy, they're not deemed professional. So I would try to, again, wear either dress pants or a skirt. So I probably am a little old school from my days at LaSalle, but we used to kind of give the rule that a skirt should be right above your knee. And when you sit down, you don't really want it to go much above your knee, because you want to be mindful of when you sit down, just naturally moves up a little bit. So I don't suggest anything shorter than that. And, typically I think, like, unfortunately right now you can't go really look, but those types of professional skirts, if you're more interested in skirts like that, can be purchased at places like Marshall's and TJ Maxx, like places that aren't super, super expensive. I mean, you can go to like an Ann Taylor loft, but that is going to run you a little bit more money for that. So Marshall's and things like that can actually be pretty good, or like Burlington Coat Factory even. I don't know, Sarah, if you have other insights. You're a little younger than me, but
Yeah, I would say Marshalls and TJ Maxx are great for. Ross also has, I think, a lot of different sizes, a lot of different options. Trying to think, where do I get mine? Yeah, I think Marshalls and TJ Maxx mostly. It's usually affordable and options.
Target actually has, like, I think it's Morona. That's really inexpensive. I haven't bought there for a while, but I know sometimes they have some decent work pants, and I don't know about skirts as much, but I've had different work slacks and pants from Target from the Morona brand. It's in the women's section though, not juniors.
Yeah, one other place, many of you guys come from the middle schools where you may have had to wear uniforms, but even places like Old Navy has a really nice, simple khaki color pant. They have nice polo shirts that are pretty plain. So Old Navy, you can't go wrong with Old Navy. You can't go wrong with Targets and even Walmart in a sense. You know, you just want to have that clean. You all know what it looks like. You watch television, you see different sitcoms, and you just want to be presentable, whether you're comfortable in it or not. It will be worth it for that 1 hour that you have to wear it.
And somebody asked, how long does a typical interview take for a high school student?
Employers, I'll be honest, they don't like to spend too much time. You know, they want you in, they want you out. They want to see what kind of person you are. They want to see if you if you're charismatic, if you got personality. So they try not to keep you forever. You probably spend less time in the interview than you would in getting there. Most managers know right off whether they want to hire you or not. You know, your first impression, your handshake, your eye contact, just your mood will set the tone. So I would say anywhere from 10 minutes. 10 minutes. If it's more involved, then you might be there for about 20. But some folks just need people. They need people. They need people to work. I've had managers say, "Hey, just send me somebody that has a pulse." And it sounds funny, but you'd be surprised how fast people are getting fired, how fast people are getting sent home because they're just not productive. And even in a lot of the jobs that you guys see, how many cashiers are on their phone when you're trying to order, you're trying to ring out, but they're on their phone. So little things. So hope that helps.
Yeah, I would say really depends on the employer. It could be like, maybe 10 or 20 minutes. I'd say if it's a little bit more of an involved job, like an internship type of interview, probably would be closer to 45 minutes. And you might get some more scenarios, tell me about a project, tell me about an experience with a coworker or something like that. But I'd say, for probably like a grocery store or retail, maybe like 20 minutes. It might be talking about your availability a little bit more, and they might give you more information about the job versus those like more in-depth questions. But it's definitely, I'd say varies depending on the type of industry and employer. Yeah, people are busy. That's a good point, Hakeem. Especially now, it's kind of this whole different situation. So they might not have as much time as they once would to get people in and out and process. So it might be a little quicker.
And then in the chat, Ms. Hall put down that also students can look at Primark. It's a nice place for you to get some very inexpensive, fashionable things for interviews. So we have about 5 minutes left. So students, if you have any burning questions, please make sure you ask your questions while you have these three fabulous people here. And then while you guys are coming up with your questions, we're also going to ask our guests if they can give their best piece of advice for students in relation to jobs, resumes, any of your best professional advice. So we'll give you guys 30 seconds to put some questions in the comments. I know you've asked a lot of great questions in this time. I really appreciate it. My regulars are here. And please know that my regulars that have been coming in here, I'm keeping a list of you because I will definitely take care of you when we get back to school. Okay.
I would say, I don't know if what people are thinking. I know, long-term kind of feels probably hard to get your head around right now in terms of like college or careers, but what you do in high school really can help with those either college applications or job applications, being involved like it seems like so many of you are in your college prep center, or extracurriculars you're joining, or volunteering, summer employment. All of those might seem kind of I don't know, for some people it might seem tedious or not as important, but it really can make or break you in an application for college, or maybe not make or break you, but it can help you stand out if you have those things that you're doing extra in terms of working over the summer, maybe joining a club or two if you haven't already at the high school, and just staying involved. I mean, I like the way our one counselor puts it. You really get, how should you say, get out of what you put in. Get like, so if you put in a lot of effort, you usually can get a lot from it. So staying involved.
Yeah, someone asked a question about, is it okay to go to college without any job experience at all? There's no problem at all if you haven't had job experience. Good thing about college is there's opportunities to have work study, which is an opportunity where you're a student, but the university also gives you a part-time job on campus based on your financial aid. So I think even if you haven't had a job, there's many things that you've done over your life that were similar to jobs, whether you were helping your family with house chores, whether you're babysitting, whether I think we've all done things in school and in life that can kind of transfer into employment. But at some point, yeah, you do want to get started.
Yeah, some people are really dedicated to their studies or have family responsibilities where their schedules just don't allow a job. And I think colleges are pretty understanding of that typically.
Yeah. And there was another question about, do colleges want the jobs you have to be specific or resemble what you want to do? That's not always exactly true either. Remember I told you I worked at Staples when I was in high school. So when I got to my university in West Virginia, they didn't have a Staples, but I worked at Office Max, or Office Depot. And I think the fact that, one, you have to earn money to keep yourself stable and keep yourself comfortable, but most of those jobs are transferable. The general manager who would come in to Staples, the general manager who will come in to see us on a regular basis, he could very much be the person that you'll become one day. So whether or not you're working in retail, that doesn't mean you can't find a job as a lawyer. I think we all start somewhere, and that's understandable.
And just to add, to be honest, when colleges are asking you where you've been working and what you're doing, they're looking at a couple of different things. One, they want to see your job history, right? They want to see if you had a job, how long you worked there, what did you do there, right? So if you say you worked at Wendy's, which I was the drive-through girl at Wendy's forever. So, you worked at Wendy's, you worked there for 2 or 3 years. So they know that you can keep a job if you stayed there for 2 or 3 years. I did the window. So when you work the cash register at the window, it's a lot of different things that go into that job. You have to be pleasant. You have to be organized. You have to make sure you count change, so they look at all those different things. But when you guys are going to college, in my opinion and many others, the number one indicator of your success in college is not how good your grades are and how good of a student you are. It's about your time management and how you manage your time. So if colleges see that you've had a job, you've had some extracurricular activities, and you still can maintain A's and B's, then that's a good indication. And you can see all the head nods in the windows here. That's a good indication that you'll be able to do well when you get to college. So when you're in school, you're in class for about 35 hours a week. When you guys are in college, you are in class for 12 to 18 hours a week. So you have to figure out how to manage all that extra time that you have without your parents over your back telling you to wash the dishes, pick up your underwear off the floor, walk the dog, all these different things. That's on you. So those are the things that the colleges are going to be looking at the job for about your time management. Okay.
Mitchell, real quick, if I could touch on that. So when I was in college, I've done all type of jobs. So just think about it. I would have spring break and come home. I've done construction. I've worked for a pool company. I've delivered furniture. I worked in retail. I volunteered at a Boys and Girls Club and helped kids. So while you're in college, there's no job is a bad job. So the most important thing is, one, is were you good at that job? Were you reliable? And did that manager appreciate the work you were doing? And three, that manager or the person you work for can one day vouch for you when you want to do something bigger and better. So I guess all these jobs that we come across as young people, we just want to have a positive outcome from them, and that reference is most important.
All right, so we're coming up on 2:00. So I didn't know if there was one or two other of you that had your great suggestion that you wanted to give out, and then we can wrap up our meeting for today. So was there anyone else, any of our guests that had one suggestion that they want to give out to the students that they did not?
Yeah, I'll just say what Hakeem just said was going to be my point, is that all of these jobs that you have that maybe aren't going to be exactly translatable to whatever career you want to go into, but your boss is going to be your reference for those jobs. And so that's always important to keep in mind. And I'm not saying to, stay with the job for 10 years just because it's a job, but if you do need to leave a job, leave respectfully, have a conversation, maintain a good relationship with your employer, with your boss. So when you do have a job you really want, you can go back to them and say, hey, would you either write me a letter? Because a lot of the times schools want recommendation letters. So with it, if it's a teacher, if it's an employer, if it's a teammate you worked with, those relationships are important. So just always keep that in the back of your mind, I would say.
And with your teachers too, guys, the same thing. You want to start maintaining these relationships with your 9th, 10th, and 11th grade teachers, because you're going to need letters of recommendations for school for them too. And so, you want to make sure that you've built some kind of relationship so when they write that letter for you, they can write something other than, Johnny is a nice young man. He comes to my class every single day. You want them to write something significant that you've contributed to class, or some things about your character that they know.
Yep, and Ms. Mitchell, I just wanted to share that I've been sending websites as we go. So if you have access to the chat, you'll see those websites. The first website was mynextmove.org. It is a really strong website that will help you identify any career that you're interested in. The next one was a resume builder, really user-friendly Philadelphia site that allows you to create a basic resume. And then the last one was just the information on interviews and interview attire.
Okay, well, we want to thank you guys so much for coming to talk to us about jobs and work and interviews and giving us your best tips. I think that it was a great session, better than I imagined. Not that I thought it wasn't going to be good, because I thought it was going to be good because we asked you to come in. But it was really great, and I hope that the students got a lot of notes and tips that you guys can use and share with your friends moving forward, because you guys are going to be looking for jobs this summer, or maybe looking for a different job depending on what you're doing. So I just wanted to thank you guys so much for talking to our students and taking time out of your busy schedule. So if students, if in the chat, if you can either unmute yourselves, if you can say thank you or type thank you in the chat. And if you can do this last favor, if you can go in the chat or unmute yourself and tell us one takeaway that you got today, something that you learned today that you didn't know, or that they gave you more clarity on it. So you can either unmute yourself and say it really quick, don't tell us a story, or write it in the chat. Okay, I learned that any job is a good job. Yep, so a lot of thank yous. I learned that any job is a good job. Going once. Thank you so much. I found out what to learn, how to handle interviews. Awesome. Learned about what you have to do for virtual interviews. Awesome. Anybody else before we close out? I learned more about the SLIP program in Montco Works. Okay. And one more. Okay, Ms. Gallagher, thanks to Hakeem and the team. And I guess, did you guys put in the chat how the students can contact you? How can they contact you after today? So Mr. Jones is going to put something in the chats
Yeah.
that you guys will know. And I think Miss Sarah's going to say something.
Yeah, I was gonna say we can add our emails. Kim, I guess is probably the best way right now. Okay. That's
Oh, Mr. Jones is dropping digits. Okay.
I know.
So I just shared our main program line that just allows you to call and get
He
some
gave y'all his
information
Google
from us.
voice.
And our emails, our emails are there also. So if you ever want to just reach out and need advice, or you just need some help with something, feel free to email us.
All
I'm
right.
super impressed by all your questions. Thank you for,
Right.
taking the time too and logging on, I guess another month or so of school. So appreciate you spending your time with us as well. It's really energizing for us, or at least I feel like I'm missing a lot of contact with students and clients. So it was very energizing and exciting.
All right. Well, thank you so much, guys, for coming on. Enjoy your day. Wash your hands. Exercise. That's what I need to do. And just have a good time. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
having us up.